I love this reading. It took me years and years to love it. I've said this before here, but having been born and raised Jewish, I really didn't know the Bible until, well, probably many years after I was on this path. I've been on this path a long time now, but it takes a while to really grasp the subtleties of what first is being said in the Bible, then in the Gita, and then always Swami Kriyananda's beautiful commentary on all of it. But that phrase, to not cast pearls before swine, I just couldn't accept it, because here's Jesus calling people swine. It just always felt terrible. But again, to understand energetically what he was saying, what Jesus was saying, which actually is explained more in the Gita reading today, about who we shouldn't share this with and why, if people don't want to hear it, if their hearts aren't open. There's two more, I don't remember what they are, but if they're going to resist it, the Gita says, don't share it, because it does something to the energy of the teaching itself. These teachings are so precious. It's so extraordinary that we are being given access to them. So many thoughts came to me about this reading and which part of it to try and talk about. But one of the things that came to me is that, and again, I've mentioned this before too, I think it's true for many people, my whole life has really, one way or another, been devoted to this search for the divine within. I did that on a path of following the Jewish teachings for a long time. Then I went searching, and then Master picked me up and put me here, and that was in 1979. And we all know the rest of the story. But that's a lot of years. And in all of those years, I could literally say, count the times on one hand, that anybody in my family or any old friends who have not found their way onto a path has asked me any question about what I'm doing with my life. It's very obviously my whole life. But these people love me. If they're in trouble, they want me to be with them. But they never ask a question. And I have realized for what is decades now that I have to wait for them to ask before I would ever say anything. So we never talk about this. It's so interesting. We do these questions and answers every few months, these programs. They're wonderful. And they go on for hours. And in one way or another, at least 4 times every time we do it, somebody is asking, but how can I make my spouse, my children, my parents feel about these teachings the way I do? It's very common. It's very understandable that we've been exposed to the beauty of what it means to really fall in love with God, and to be falling in love with God within. Of course, we would naturally want to share it with everybody that we care about and as many people as we can, but we can't. We have to realize that while we're all on the same exact path, every one of us, and every one of us who's not here today, every human being, actually it's more than that, but we won't go down that road, but every animal, every bit of creation, we are all on the same exact path back to God. means finding that pure divine love, that source of magnificent inspiration within. Just Keshava this morning, when he was talking in the purification ceremony, I don't know if that was intuitive because he's tuned in, which it could have been, or if he actually read. It wasn't in this reading, but in an expanded version of the reading, where Yogananda says at one point that Patanjali, who's considered the father of yoga, not hatha yoga, but yoga, the whole way of life of yoga, defines enlightenment as smriti. Smriti means remembering. So it's a process of remembering who we are. And that's how we find our way to enlightenment. We're all doing that, whether we're conscious of it or not, whether we're conscious of it some of the times or not, whether we're loving it or whether we're having those moments of resistance, which we all get to. We're all on the same path. But it is essential that we all always remember that every one of us is going to do this in our own unique way and in our own unique time. And this is what Swamiji's saying. And if we try and push people, they just fight back. We are doing them a tremendous disservice because they have to. And it's true. We do have to add strength to the argument against where we don't want to go. We could very easily say to people, many of us, or ourselves, I'm going to always say I'm one of the people that somebody could be talking to because we're not free until we're free. So this applies to all of us. Every single thing that's happening to you in your life is happening to you because of past life, the way you've lived it, the energy you've put out or taken in, deeds that you've done, deeds that you haven't done. Nothing's wrong in your life. That's truth. But how many people can we say that to? How many times do we even not want to hear it ourselves? I remember years ago now, and I've told this story too, but it just came into mind and it's so perfect. There was a friend, and I think this person cares about me a great deal, but he got into the habit of every once in a while inviting me over to tell me what I was doing wrong in my various positions that I've been in. So after the second time, I knew what was going to happen, and I would say to myself, do not resist it. Do not react to it. Listen, take away what feels right, and just leave the rest. So I was doing this one time, and almost an hour into it, this isn't right, that's not right, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't do that. I said to him, let me ask you this. Let's assume that everything you're telling me is the truth. Let's just assume that. Is this how you would want to be helping me, your friend? Is this the way that you think you're going to help me change one thing after another? None of us can do that. It's very hard. It takes a long time on the path to be able to see what we're doing that is taking us closer to enlightenment and what we're doing that isn't. It sounds so easy, but the ego has a strong hold on us. I was just in a 2-week seclusion, as many of you know, and it was an unusual seclusion for me. And by that, I mean I was restless. I was very restless. Usually I go into seclusion, you sit, you start meditating, listening to Swamiji's talks, music. But it was challenging for me to do that. So I had to find other ways to spend these 2 precious weeks just feeling very close to God. So we had this beautiful altar up. I say we because Lakshmi took a seclusion in this place for 2 weeks before I did. And I arrived and she left. But she had set up a beautiful altar with big pictures of the masters and plants in between them. It was gorgeous. And then right behind them was the Pacific Ocean. So that was appealing. And I would just sit and talk to them. I would have these conversations with each of the masters because it was harder for me to get quiet. And at one point, I was talking to Swamiji about something, and he repeated in my head a comment that he had made to me at a dinner that we were at. It was actually a tea in Los Angeles. He had asked that I sit at the table with him. I was shocked. I had no idea why. But during that tea, he said something to me. And for years, I kept asking myself, because he stops the energy. Shanti, do you know this? And I don't want to repeat what it was. It's not the right thing to do here. No, sir, I don't. And he told me this thing that was about himself. He said it about himself. And I pondered that for the longest time, 13 years to be exact. I actually wrote to Dharmaraj in India because he was in LA. When was that? What was the date? And he told me, 13 years later, I could hear what he was saying. This is why Jesus said, for those who have ears to hear. And it's hard, and you have to be ready to hear. Your listening has to be able to step up to the magnitude, the power, the impact of what's about to come to you. If you're inviting truth, it's not always easy. Even when you read the autobiography of a yogi, I actually listened to it while I was away with Swamiji reading it. Wow, what a different experience than just reading it, Swamiji's energy as he speaks us. So I heard things I had never heard. But one of the interesting things is how often, even for Yogananda, now of course we know that he came in and he was an avatar, and we can ask ourselves forever, why did these things happen to him? We won't know. We can say it happened so that he could teach us. But I wanted to read to you what he said at one point. So he was just meeting his guru, and his guru wanted him to go home and go back to school. Most of us have read the book, and most of us remember that. And he got so upset after he had just told him, everything you say to me, I will do. You're my guru. He's touching his feet. But he got angry with Sri Yukteswar. He didn't want to go home. He didn't want to go to school. But Sri Yukteswar sent him away. He said, you'll come back in a month, but go. And Yogananda says at that point, he said, I departed without lightening, means make it lighter. He did nothing to fix the problem, is what he's saying, the controversial tension. And then he said, my young heart was not yet malleable to the transforming fingers of my guru. So here he is saying, I forget how old he was, in his teens, when he met Sri Yukteswar, but he was saying, I couldn't listen. I couldn't easily do what he was asking. Even when his mother died, monumental moment in his life, and she had an amulet that she wanted to give him. but she gave it to his older brother and said, wait 2 years and then give him the amulet. I'm telling these stories because it's very hard. We're not at the same point on the path, and we cannot see clearly. And having somebody try and tell us all of the truth about our lives. When is the last time you tried to force somebody to see something that they were resisting, that you could talk them into it? Doesn't happen that way. However, if we share light instead of teachings, if we're walking around with as much light from the divine as we can muster and let it flow through us, people will be touched by that. That's why my family wants me to be with them all the time, but they don't want to hear the teachings. It's not time for them yet. And this is a very real phenomenon. Sri Yukteswar, many of us know this, he defined he talked about the stages of the heart, the qualities of the heart, in the only book that he wrote. But he's talking about them from a point of evolution, the evolution of our consciousness. How do we grow spiritually? How do we get closer to absolute truth, to smriti, to enlightenment? And he says, here are the stages that we need to go through. And he says what they are. There's 5 of them. The dark heart, the propelled heart, the steady heart. Where am I? I'm losing my... Let me just find them. Sorry. Dark, propelled, steady, devoted, and clean. Now, it's not till we reach that place of having... If you want to hear a lot about what these stages mean, we're offering a course in November, a 3-night course. Come for it. It's fascinating because it's the story of our soul. But what we need to hear is that it's real. Hearts open. Hearts mean heart chakra. It means our astral spine. It means our energy. As our souls evolve, our hearts open to be able to receive more and more divine truth, to be able to move closer to pure consciousness towards that state of enlightenment. Again, we all want to get there. But if we're a soul whose heart is in that stage of darkness, we can't hear anything. And we're going to mock it, we're going to reject it, we're going to be strongly opposed to it. And it's not until we reach the stage of a clean heart, we're talking lifetimes, many lifetimes, that we're in perfect tune with the divine presence. So this is a real journey. We shouldn't be so upset with ourselves. And again, it's always easier to tell stories on myself. It wasn't easy for me to be restless. For 2 weeks, I was restless. I mean, I did everything about God. I listened to the AY. I talked to the masters. I listened to chants. I watched YouTubes of Swamiji and what I could find of Master. It's not like I was out drinking and, watching ridiculous movies. But I was restless. And every time I started to apologize to them and feel terrible for them, oh my God, look at me all these years. I don't even want to say. I could feel my energy going down. But when I would look at them and say to them, you help me, you have the power, you know my heart, get in here, I want this, and I would bring that willingness and that power, I could feel my energy going up, even though it wasn't where I thought I should be. We have to go through whatever we have to go through. I was thinking about, I'll tell you one funny story first, just popped into my mind again, because I wanted to tell you. Joe Tish tells this story, and it's particularly adorable because Nayaswami Joe Tish is not Jewish, and there's nothing about him that's Jewish, nothing. When you look at Joe Tish, you do not think Jewish. When you look at Devi, his wife, Nayaswami Devi, you look at her, you know she came from a Jewish background. Anyway, he tells us a story. They were down in Los Angeles going to the car show with Bharati. Some of you know her. She's a devotee, lives in Los Angeles, and for many, many years she ran the car show. For whatever reason, she decided that she wanted Joe Tish and Devi and maybe Diana was with them. I can't remember who was there. Another Nayaswami. Nayaswamis, for those of you who don't know, wear this blue. She wanted them to go to the LA car show in their robes. These robes, not just like wear something blue because we're always wearing blue. So they go in their robes. You can imagine how much they stood out. So this woman at one point walks up to Devi, and she goes, "So, what's with the blue?" I mean, clearly a New York Jewish person, I mean it. Devi says, "Well, we're part of a spiritual community." And woman goes, "So, are you gurus? Are you gurus?" And Devi said, "No." And she started talking to this woman. So Joe Tish says, parenthetically, as he's telling the story, she was already sharing too many pearls. It was adorable. Anyway, Devi tries to explain briefly, we're not gurus, but maybe someday we would love to be. And the woman goes, "You want a cupcake?" You can't pass pearls before swine. The woman was being perfectly lovely, but it's sort of like too much information. Even stories of saints that we know, even when we think of St. Francis, we all know the story. He was in an old church, San Damiano, and he literally hears God say to him, "Rebuild my church." So he was who he was in that moment. So what he heard was rebuild the church. He had extraordinary willingness. These are true stories. We know it. He started carrying these huge rocks, and he wasn't exactly a bodybuilder either. We've also seen St. Francis. He carried every rock. He brought everything he needed. He literally, on the physical plane, rebuilt the church. And it wasn't until he was done that God says to him, "Oh, that's not what I meant." But in a way, it was what he meant, because it's exactly where Francis was. It was what he could hear, but his willingness to do it, what he heard, the best he could do. Important lesson for us right here. The willingness to do whatever we can, to sit and talk the ears of the masters off, if that's the best you can do. Just talk and talk and talk to them. To pick up stones, to call your body brother donkey, to build the church. Then God could say to him, "No, that's not what I meant, Francis. I meant you have a great work to do." I'd like to share quickly, I'll make this very short. There's a movie that I watched many, many years ago called, oh my goodness, I don't think I wrote it down because, McFarland, USA. I don't know how many of you have watched it. It's the story, a Kevin Costner movie. He comes to a high school in McFarland, which is a true story. It's a real city. It's in the valley. Its population is essentially people who go out into the fields and work. The kids get up at 4 in the morning. They run to the fields. They run. It's a long way. You know, along the aqueducts, you've seen them if you've ever driven down 5. They run along the aqueducts miles and miles a day to get to where they need to be by 4:30 in the morning to pick whatever they're picking at the time. Then they run back to try and come to school. Then they go back to the fields. Their families need them to do this because they make money, and it's the only way they can live. And this teacher came, and he was supposed to be a football coach. But the kids couldn't play football. They never hardly seen a football. They were not football players. But he watched them, and he sees they're runners. That's who they are. And it's really worth watching this movie because this man, this is a true story. Again, Mr. White was his name, which these Latino kids made fun of endlessly because he was very white and his name was White. And that was not their name. Anyway, he stayed with these kids. I mean, this was over a year. He saw what they could do. He pushed them a little harder. He saw what they could do. He pushed them harder. He said, at one point, I realized they could take more. He pushed them harder. He developed with them, 7 kids were from one family, a running team that started over a long period of time, winning state championships first in California, then other states. It turned the whole town around. People were so enthused watching these children run with the help, really divinely inspired help of this man who was sharing light and love and making suggestions, not saying, I mean, he was a coach, so he was coaching. Coaches can be very male and very tough, but not like, you have to do this, you have to learn that. Think of how you'll feel when you do this. Come on, I know you can do better. Whatever it was, reading them, helping them take their next step, helping them feel respected, loved, trusted. This is how we share truth. We share it through kindness. We share it through expressing a thought. We share it by gently offering something to somebody. If they want more, and we see this all the time, they come back. How many times have I given my email to people I meet? If you'd like to come in and talk, here, please, I'd love to meet with you. I don't know, 1,000? It's probably not hyperbole. And most of them don't write. They've met, they've had time. Just the other day, I was just trying to leave here. 2 different people came. Each of them wanted to talk. Each of them wanted to talk for 30 minutes. Max was pulling me to go home. He was not happy here. They saw it, but they needed my time. But I gave them my email. And who knows? If it's time for them, we make the offering. This is how people feel cared about. This is what opens hearts. This is what trust is about and what leads to truth. We live the teachings. And the more that we can do this through kindness, through all of what I'm just saying, this is how we share truth. I'll just end with one other story that's lovely, a little brief story. Many of you know Kavita, who's the spiritual leader in New Zealand of the work there. Lovely, lovely soul. She was here some years ago, and she was talking with Jyotish, and she said to Jyotish, I'd like to start a community. Can you give me some guidance? And she said he got very quiet, the way Jyotish does. If you watch him, he will always know some deep inspiration is going to come. And he said to her, don't start a community, start friendships. He said, make friends with as many people in New Zealand as you can. And when it's time, that will become the community. You don't make something and then try and push people or drag them, pull them into it. You wait and help them become, just like what happened with that team, which is still running. I mean, it's amazing what's happened, how much money poured in. They begged that coach to come here to Palo Alto. I mean, he said no. He stayed in McFarland because it had become a community, because spiritual truths had been shared, though that's not the words that were used, but that's what it was. People were moving forward on their path. All 7 of those children in that one family went to college. Nobody in their family had ever gone to college before. And it's success story after success story. But you see the point of this, how we share truth. We live it, we just exude it, we open our hearts, and then we feel how the masters do it with us. They were there for me for 2 weeks, even though I wasn't being the prize student. Really, not like what I thought, not 4-hour deep meditations. That didn't happen this time. But they were right there for me as soon as I showed them I was willing. So there are many, many ways for us to live these teachings, share these teachings, share energy, enthusiasm, magnetism, so that people start feeling around us. This is how Ananda's become what it's come around the world. What is it that they have? I want what they have. If that happened to me, I'd be suffering for 6 months. He or she is over in a day. What is that? It's that. So let's all do our best to certainly live the teachings, to let this light come, to help ourselves down our own path, I should say up our own path, towards this divine state of smriti, and we can be guaranteed that many, many people that we see and that we don't see will benefit and will feel God, whatever they call it, and want that.
Let's take a moment of silence. Om Shanti.
I've heard your flute high on a cloud. Your call I can't resist. Oh, let me come and play with you. We'll scatter music with the dew and sound the morning mist. I've heard you piping on a hill. All else I've set aside. Oh, let us dance the mountain peaks will skip with breezes on the creeks and soar the valleys wide. Your flute has called me to the fields. Now I've no place to live. Don't send me back, rejected friend. Whatever I call mine must end. All that I am, I give. I hear your flute in every tree, in every flower and stream, and sweetest melody of all, a song that heaven's joy recalls. Here in my heart you see